3 terrifying true childhood horror stories exposed, sinister secrets of a cursed playground. Sarah stepped into her new life with hope. The faded suburban neighborhood smelled of damp earth and resignation. She was here for a fresh start with her son, Timmy. Yet, the town whispered of an abandoned playground, where laughter once bubbled, now merely shadows danced among twisting weeds and rust. Timmy was drawn to it, and despite her hesitations, Sarah couldn't ignore his childish excitement. "Mom! Look at this place!" Timmy's voice echoed with innocent delight as they approached the playground. The swings hung limply, a few chains rusted, and the slide had grown a mossy beard of neglect. But beneath that facade, something dark thrummed. A chill crept through Sarah as she observed how the light cast odd shapes, almost like eyes watching them. At first, the neighbors welcomed her with a smile but grew tight-lipped when she mentioned the playground. Unease wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. "You'll get used to it," one neighbor had said, a faux cheeriness masking something deeper. The town brimmed with tales too prickly to touch of children who vanished without a trace, stories told in whispers, their edges curling like smoke. The playground held too many secrets, too many locked doors. Timmy's talent flourished unnaturally. His sketches, once innocent, turned grotesque, the monstrous figures he conjured lurking behind every swing and seesaw. "It's just a drawing, sweetheart," she soothed, trying to dismiss the creeping dread. But late at night, when shadows crept in thick like a fog, those drawings felt like eerie warnings. Then came the chilling realization: a revered community leader had disappeared, an echo of a bargain struck that had plunged the town into darkness. As weeks wore on, strange events began to unfurl. Timmy spoke of disembodied laughter fluttering in the air around him, shadows danced in the corners of her sight, taunting her from the edges of reality. Sarah's heart raced, fists trembling as she sought answers from the local police. They brushed her off dismissively, smirking at what they deemed simple townsfolk folklore. "Just a ghost story, ma'am," they chuckled, but the dread clung to her like sweat on a summer's day. With each passing moment, Sarah felt the fabric of tranquility unravel. Their home transformed into a realm of whispers. Things went missing, Timmy grew distant, his laughter replaced with a furrowed brow. It was a reality twisted, one she could no longer weave a blanket of safety around. She stumbled upon Timmy's latest drawing, a figure with hollow eyes staring hauntingly from the page, too similar to the missing leader from years past. Her heart plummeted as the implications laid bare the agony of truth, pulling her deeper into despair. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One unbearable night, driven by a primal urge to protect, Sarah stumbled toward the playground. A flashlight gripped tightly in her shaking hand, she stepped into the abyss of childhood nightmares. The air thickened, pregnant with the scent of decay and old sins. With every creak of rusted metal, shadows whispered secrets. She felt the ground tremble beneath her, an unseen force beckoning her closer. The laughter erupted again, charging through the air as she understood this was no ordinary haunt. An unspeakable terror lurked just beneath the surface, ready to consume everything they held dear. The trembling bond between her and Timmy eroded, as the night deepened, leaving her questioning not just her sanity, but whether fleeing this haunted playground could even save them. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she took a tentative step further into the playground. The beam of her flashlight danced wildly, illuminating clinging shadows that recoiled like whispers of forgotten dreams. Nearby, the swings swayed gently despite the stillness, groaning as if yearning for the laughter of children long lost. "Timmy," she called, her voice fractured, echoing against the rusted metal. Anxiety clawed at her throat as each passing second stretched into infinity. The child's absence felt like a chasm opening beneath her. "Where are you?" Silence swallowed her words, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the unsettling whisper of the wind through the cold, twisted trees that bordered the playground, sentinels of a dark history too heavy to bear. Forcing herself to breathe, Sarah tried to quell the rising panic creeping into her veins. She stepped deeper, her eyes scanning for any sign of him. And then, off in the distance, she saw a faint shimmer at the base of the slide. It shimmered like something alive, pulsing gently as if it had a heartbeat. Was it Timmy? She hurried toward the slide, every instinct screaming for her to turn back. A nagging sense of dread whispered that she might be crossing a line, a boundary drawn in blood and sorrow. But she couldn't stop now. "Timmy!" she shouted, voice trembling as the shadows around her grew more pronounced. As she reached the base of the slide, her blood ran cold. Littered at her feet were Timmy's drawings, scattered in a chaotic array, a monstrous depiction of herself, eyes wide and mouths open, reaching out in desperate pleas. Each one portrayed the playground morphing into a horrifying vision. Chains now bound the swings to a gnarled tree, children trapped, their expressions twisted into horror. She stumbled back, dread corkscrewing through her stomach. Where was her son? He had to be near, but the recesses of this playground mocked her search, shifting the world around her. The laughter erupted again, louder, suffused with dark delight, as if the very ground beneath her thrummed with villainous joy. A sudden scuttling sound startled her. A small figure darted from behind the slide, a rat, she thought at first. But as it gleamed in the flashlight's beam, she froze. It wasn't a rat. Timmy's face twisted in that grotesque smile she'd seen in his drawings. "Mom," he said sweetly, his voice dripping with innocence, but his eyes were hollow, depths of darkness seeped within them. "You gotta see what I found." "Timmy." She reached out, but he danced away, slipping further into the shadows. "Stay close. Please." But he just giggled, that unnerving sound fluttering around them, and began to move deeper into the playground, beckoning her with an unsettling insistence. The playground seemed to breathe, exhaling shadows and tendrils of fear with each of his steps, making it impossible to discern what was real and what was part of this nightmare. Terror clawed at her throat as she chased after him, dodging rusting equipment and a cage of metal that somehow felt alive. Each push deeper brought with it echoes of frightened children, laughter twisted with despair. Desperate cries echoed in her mind. Where were these voices coming from? Thud. A sound so close it made her heart leap into her throat. Timber creaked above her as shadows writhed around the playground structures. She turned fast, spotting a shape flitting away. It looked like a child. "Timmy!" she screamed, her voice a raw plea, but the laughter swelled around her, a hideous chorus mocking her. Then, she felt it. Cold hands gripping at her ankles, pulling her down. Visions of what children might have seen before they disappeared spiraled through her mind. It transfixed her, on the verge of drowning in a pit of despair as their faces contorted into pure terror. But one face rose above all, a face she recognized. The leader. The one who had vanished. "Mom!" Timmy's voice, now laced with urgency and panic, sliced through the distortion. She pushed through the sensations of terror gripping her. "Timmy!" she cried again. He reappeared, his face reflecting an otherworldly shine. "You shouldn't have come here." He turned away, fears dancing across his features as he stumbled back toward the darkened heart of the playground. "Timmy, wait!" But shadows engulfed him, dragging him towards the slide, to where the laughter crescendoed into hysterical delight. What had he found? What had he become? As the darkness thickened and enveloped them both, she could only follow. Step after agonizing step deeper into the maze of nightmares, where her son had become just another lost child clinging to his ghostly embrace. And the moment of sheer dread gripped her, a gnawing question echoed in her mind. what dark bargain had the playground struck to claim its latest victims? With each step, the ground came alive beneath her. The ground pulsed beneath Sarah's feet, like the heartbeat of the playground itself, urging her deeper into its embrace. The laughter morphed into a sinister tapestry woven with echoes of lost joy, dragging memories from her mind. Timmy's laughter, why couldn't she remember the last time she'd heard it? Panic swirled in her chest like a trapped bird, desperate to escape. "Timmy!" she cried, but the shadows swallowed her voice whole. Something shifted in the air as the familiar scent of decay wafted through the darkness. Grime coated the equipment, threads of rust strangling the metal as though the playground had been seized by a long-forgotten curse. She felt like a moth drawn to a flame, unable to resist the pull of the malevolent heart that throbbed within. Ahead, she glimpsed Timmy again, a fleeting silhouette illuminated for an instant, just as he darted around the old merry-go-round. He was too far now, far enough for the dizziness of dread to crash over her. She stumbled, skin prickling as disembodied whispers slithered through the air, a chorus of children chanting in a dialect that felt both alien and hauntingly familiar. Then, she realized. It wasn't just Timmy's face she could see in shadows, but the faces of others as well. Children. So many children. Their wide eyes full of terror, hands pressed against the darkness, begging for release. "Mom!" Timmy shouted back at her. The sound froze her heart, a desperate call hiding an unholy twist. "Help me!" Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, yet she pressed forward, the light from her flashlight flickering and danced like a flame about to snuff out. Each step reverberated with weight, as if the ground were warning her, but she couldn't let him disappear again. As she approached the merry-go-round, shadows twisted and enveloped her legs, like tendrils from some unseen monster. She kicked, but the icy grip tightened, yanking her toward its depths. She fell to her knees as cold fingers scraped at her skin. The laughter twisted, becoming broken sobs, lamenting, "Stay with us, no." She would never leave him to these wretched spirits. Gathering her strength, she pulled herself forward, fighting against the invisible chains narrowly circling her ankles. "Timmy!" she screamed, her voice raw and shaking, as her flashlight flickered back to life. In the beam, she caught sight of him. It was not innocence that greeted her, but a visage that nearly shattered her soul. His face contorted, a perversion of what she knew. "You have to come, Mom." Timmy spun on the spot, drawing closer to the merry-go-round, which now resembled a gaping maw, ready to consume everything in its path. Around it, the air shimmered, a dark portal beckoning with malevolent whispers. "I found something," he insisted, eyes wide with a manic brightness. But something was off. This was not the boy she knew. The shadow of terror gripped her, forcing her heart into a vice as she realized he was no longer just her son. "Timmy, don't." She scrambled forward, the creeping fear snaking through her veins. But he had already crossed the threshold, slipping beyond the veil of light. No, a scream built in her throat, echoing off the remnants of rust and childhood memories. She lunged for him, reaching desperately, stretching her fingers just as he vanished into the dark. The merry-go-round spun wildly, spinning with a life of its own, encased in shadows and shrill laughter. She stumbled back, horror flooding her senses as the children began to emerge, clawing hands reaching for her through the darkness, voices whispering her name as a cruel invitation. She turned to escape, but more shadows converged, enveloping her like a shroud. With every heartbeat, she felt their cold presence, felt their longing to pull her into that sinister abyss. Desperation surged. She needed to find Timmy. But what else had he awakened in this haunted playground? Just as she thought she might escape the grips of the darkness, a soft voice lured from the shadows, "Mom, come play." What had she unleashed? The question chilled her to the bone as she took a step back, praying for direction, praying this nightmare wouldn't snare another, her heart racing again at the thought of what else lurked in the depths of this cursed playground. Her heart thudded in her chest like a war drum, each beat punctuated by the whispers growing louder, more insistent. "Mom, come play." It twisted her stomach, the innocence of the call wrapped in the chilling suggestion of betrayal. Sarah spun around, eyes darting, searching for a way out. The merry-go-round still spun, and from the cauldron of shadows emerged faces twisted, sorrowful, and filled with a longing that gnawed at her soul. Their mouths moved, forming silent words that she couldn't quite hear, but she knew they were beckoning her closer, promising secrets of long-lost love. "Stay with us," one child crooned, the soft timbre almost sweet, but the sharp edge of reality laced through the voice. She took a deep breath, forcing her feet to steady. "Timmy!" She cried out again, trying to cut through the thick despair that hung around her like a shroud. The moment her words escaped, the laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a deafening silence that was somehow worse. The shadows seemed to breathe, shifting as she felt their hunger for her essence. She stumbled back, barely managing to keep from falling. The gleaming eyes of the children glinted back at her, filled with an incomprehensible depth of darkness. They didn't just want her to play, they wanted her to join the game that never ended. "Your son is waiting," chimed a chorus of shrill voices. Their eyes pierced her, sending shivers spiraling down her spine. She couldn't process what this was doing to her. The playground beneath her feet shifted, the ground softening as though it desired to consume her as it had so many before. "No!" She screamed, but the word echoed hollowly, feeding the darkness instead of escaping it. In that silence, she felt the childlike innocence of Timmy glimpsing through the twisted facade. "Mom, please!" His voice, shaky and scared, broke her resolve. It drew her in, like a moth to a flame, but she hesitated, overwhelmed by the weight of what surrounded her, spirit's hunger-filled, longing for companionship even in death. The darkness pooled in front of her like smoke, thick and acrid, and from its depths, figures emerged, children with hollow eyes and stretched, ghostly grins. She felt her breath quicken, fear clawing at her throat, an animalistic response to the imminent danger they represented. "Don't you want to see him?" They swirled around her, their little bodies flickering with each pulse of the haunted playground, and she felt the cold grip tighten, a phantom hand at her throat. "I have to get him!" she cried, battling the suffocating urge to collapse. They giggled, a sound that shattered her heart into shards of glass. Why was Timmy calling for her? Why wouldn't he leave? And what had he found this treacherous game they played? Gathering the last reserves of her strength, she cast aside her fear and lunged toward the merry-go-round, her feet barely moving as the shadows clawed up her legs. "Let him go!" she roared, charging the center where darkness draped thick and heavy. The ground pulsed, echoing her defiance, and she felt the tension in the air thrum, electrified by her whispered prayers. For a heartbeat, the shadows paused. She could almost feel Timmy's presence shimmering under the layers of spectral heaviness. "Mom!" he shouted, and then the grip they had on her began to ease. But before she could fully break free, a laugh deep and booming reverberated through the playground, drowning out her thoughts. The essence of the merry-go-round shifted, its hunger returning with a furious vengeance, pulling at her very soul. "Join us," the voices pleaded, drawing very near, and she saw flashes of the children who had vanished before, faces she recognized but couldn't name. "Mom, I'm scared," Timmy's small voice broke through once more, clearer now. Then, before her eyes, Timmy appeared, a shadow behind the merry-go-round's glow, stretching toward her, his face contorted like marred porcelain. "Help me, Mom!" As she reached for him, the air thickened again with laughter, louder, more crazed. An overwhelming force slammed against her, knocking her backward, and just like that, Timmy's face disappeared again, swallowed back into the void. Panic surged within her, electric and insatiable. Had she lost him forever? Playtime's not over. The shadows wove together, forming grotesque shapes, mouthfuls of darkness beckoning her back to join them. Sarah struggled to breathe as the dark depths of the playground swelled ominously, carving her fate with each pulse, each heartbeat. What twisted evil had Timmy uncovered? The air quaked and her resolve crumbled as she whispered to the shadows, "I will not join you," but deep down, she feared it was already too late to bring back the light. What would it take to save her child? And who was waiting at the end of that inescapable tunnel of laughter? Her feet felt heavy, as if the ground itself was trying to hold her back, to draw her into the living nightmare surrounding her. With every heartbeat, the laughter of the children echoed through the air, rising and falling like the swell of an incoming tide, and she fought against it. She couldn't let them win. Not now. Timmy! Stay where you are! She screamed, but the darkness seemed to absorb her words, replacing them with more giggles, more whispers, urging her closer. The merry-go-round spun faster, blurring the faces around it, turning their haunting smiles into ghostly contortions. Mom! The sharpness of Timmy's voice cut through the cacophony. She could feel it. He was out there, beyond the veil of shadows, beyond her reach. The realization both spurred her forward and froze her in place. If she moved closer, what would happen to him? What would happen to her? The shadows thickened, rising higher, almost suffocating, and she gasped for air, clawing at her throat as panic crashed over her like a wave. I'm coming, Timmy. She choked out, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. The children shrieked with joy, delighted at the thought of her collapsing into their torment. A blinding flash of light erupted from the merry-go-round, illuminating the playground for a fraction of a second. Sarah squinted against the brightness, and in that momentary clarity, she saw them figures darting around the edges, shrouded in darkness but unmistakably human. They were the children from the neighborhood, kids she once knew, gone too soon, forever trapped within this twisted realm of sorrow. Join us, Sarah, they sang, their voices harmonizing sweetly, yet laced with an unmistakable threat. Play with us forever, stop it. She shouted, shaking her head wildly. You're not real. None of this is real. But doubt gnawed at her resolve. Were they figments of her mind? Or remnants of her lost childhood? She staggered back, her eyes darting to the ground, where she spotted something glimmering in the darkness beneath the merry-go-round. A small toy, resembling a wooden soldier, Timmy's favorite. She moved toward it instinctively, heart racing. As she bent down to retrieve the figure, cold fingers brushed against her neck, a soft, icy caress that made her shudder. You're so close, Sarah, a voice whispered, smooth as silk and oily as a slick of oil. She whirled around, but no one was there, just shadows laughing, their eyes glowing with a hunger she couldn't comprehend, the longer she lingered. No! She screamed, shoving her hand into the mass of obscurity, towards the twirling lights of the merry-go-round. Let him go. Give him back. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and the merry-go-round began to slow, almost too peacefully. The laughter dimmed, replaced by a haunting chant that echoed across the playground, growing weaker and more desperate, "Stay, don't leave, Timmy." She caught a glimpse of him again, floating on a gust of darkness, just an arm's reach away, eyes wide, pleading. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Sarah lunged, grasping desperately for the fading light of her son. But as her hands brushed against his, the laughter ricocheted again, loud and sharp. No! Not yet. Before she could process the shift, icy fingers encircled her wrist, dragging her backwards, deeper into shadow. She struggled, but their grip was stronger than any fear. She felt the chill gnawing at her hope, suffocating her light, as the merry-go-round spun, spinning her world into madness. The whispers grew into a terrifying storm of voices chanting in eerie unison, "Join us. Play with us forever." A flash of clarity surged in her mind. She had to fight back. Timmy needed her. Gathering every ounce of courage, every shred of determination, Sarah screamed into the whirling dark, "I will not be part of your game." Silence fell. The shadows recoiled, the hands released her. She stood amidst the ghostly figures, defiance coursing through her, while the merry-go-round began to dim, flickering like a dying bulb. But the darkness was not done with her yet. In an instant, she was engulfed in an unrelenting wave of weightlessness, drawing her into the heart of darkness as a new voice emerged from it, deep and resonant. Then you've chosen wrong and now you will pay. Sarah's heart splintered, fear coiling tightly around her. She had opened Pandora's box, but in doing so, had she sealed Timmy's fate forever? As the shadows crashed around her, she caught a final glimpse of the merry-go-round, a single ride still spinning with reckless abandon, lightened by a flicker of hope. Would she find Timmy within it, or would she plunge deeper into the abyss? What other horrors lay in waiting within this playground of lost souls? The shadows whispered, and Sarah felt the weight of despair pressing down harder. She stumbled, the specters of her past pulling her into the darkness. The merry-go-round spun wildly now, its lights flickering like a broken heartbeat, each pulse a reminder of the children trapped within. Timmy! She called out again, desperation clawing at her throat. The merry-go-round slowed almost imperceptibly, as if it sensed her anguish, but the air was thick with their laughter, each note biting at her sanity. Just when she thought she had a chance, a cold breath danced across her ear. "He won't come back," Sarah. The voice was sweet yet filled with malice, coaxing her into hopelessness. "You have to give something up, to see him again." Panic surged anew, and she shot around but found only unnaturally bright eyes watching her from the shadows. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice hoarse, fear pooling in her chest like ice. "Your happiness, your courage." They chimed in unison, a twisted melody that made her skin crawl. "Stay and play. Trade one life for another." The childish faces morphed, stretching into ghastly grins as they extended their hands, beckoning with promises of joy that reeked of decay. "No!" Sarah shouted, shaking her head violently. She clutched the wooden soldier, its polished surface a refinement of her child's innocence. With renewed determination, she held it tightly against her chest. "Timmy needs this. I won't let you take anything from me." A roar of wind swept through the playground, and the merry-go-round began to spin faster, a vortex of color and light. Sarah felt her feet lift from the ground. The shadows around her swirled, tightening like a noose, eager to pull her in, to strip her of her will. "Let him go!" she screamed again, tears streaming down her face. As she fought against the pull, her memories flooded back, Timmy laughing on swings, running through fields, climbing trees. These were the treasures that ignited her fight. With every desperate thought, she felt the wooden soldier burn against her palm, sparks igniting her defiance. Suddenly, a figure spun into visibility just before her, a child, no older than 5, with wide eyes filled with unfathomable sorrow. "Help him! Please!" he cried out, pointing toward the depths of the merry-go-round, where darkness pooled and flickering lights blinked in and out like dying stars. "Timmy!" Sarah reached toward the boy, but he shimmered, fading like mist on a spring morning. The shadows screamed now, angry, thrashing around her. "You think you can save him? You're just another toy in our game." But Sarah was done playing. She charged at the merry-go-round, wrapping her arms around its base, feeling power surge through her limbs. "You want something? Take this." With all her might, she tore the wooden soldier from her grip and hurled it into the spinning chaos. It struck the center of the ride, igniting a blinding light that momentarily held the shadows at bay. "No!" they shrieked, rising in a frenzy. A flash of brilliant white erupted, and Sarah felt herself pushed backward, swallowed by the void of sound. When her world stopped spinning, she collapsed to her knees on grass, warm against her skin. The playground stood before her, untouched but silent. The merry-go-round shimmered but was still. "Timmy?" she croaked, dread settling in once again. Panic clawed at her throat as she stepped forward, scanning each corner. The laughter was gone, replaced by an eerie calm, an unsettling quiet that made her heart race. Where was he? The air thickened, pressing against her, and a distant giggle broke the stillness, high-pitched and thin. "It could not be. Come play with us, Sarah." The voice rang closer, familiar yet twisted, dripping with longing. Her breath quickened as shadows crept back, reclaiming their territory. Timmy? Fear pierced her, a blackened dagger of despair. What lay waiting for her in the dark as the playground came alive again? Would she find him, or would she uncover the truth too horrific to bear? Sarah's heart pounded against her chest, the rhythm loud and frantic like the ticking of a clock counting down to some dreadful ending. She took a hesitant step forward, her senses sharp, heightened by fear. The once familiar terrain of the playground now felt foreign, twisted by shadows that stretched and yawned as if alive. Timmy? She called again, each syllable heavy with hope and despair, the words threatening to crumble under the weight of the silence. Her voice echoed eerily, swallowed by the dusk. Shadows swirled around her, their laughter resounding from unseen mouths. Each giggle sent shivers racing down her spine, a teasing reminder of the innocence stolen by the creeping dark. With bated breath, she edged toward the merry-go-round, the very center of terror. A flicker of light caught her eye, and she squinted into the gloom. There. A fleeting glimpse of someone moving beneath the ride. Timmy. Hope surged anew, but it was quickly strangled by a knot of dread. Suddenly, the merry-go-round jolted to life, the lights flickering violently. The shrieking laughter grew louder, more frantic. It sounded like a crowd, children lost in a frenzy, trapped in a twisted game with no escape. No! No! She cried, backing away as a wave of darkness surged toward her, grasping like twisted hands eager to pull her in. Join us, Sarah! A chorus of voices sang, sweet yet sinister, wrapping around her like a shroud. Leave your worries behind, get away from me! She screamed, clenching her fists. The breath of cold laughter kissed her neck, igniting every instinct to flee. But where? Each direction felt wrong, filled with unseen dangers. Panic clawed at her insides and squeezed her throat. The shadows danced closer, sliding through the grass like leeches, hungry to extract her warmth. The chill settled deeper into her bones. Timmy! I'm coming! She shouted, forcing herself forward, determined to find him no matter the cost. As she reached the edge of the merry-go-round, she thrust her hand into the darkness enveloping it. The moment her fingertips grazed the rough wood, an electrifying shock shot through her. The air crackled, and a vision exploded in her mind. A memory? A dream? Timmy's laughter rang clear, but it twisted, flickering like a flame caught in the wind. Mommy! Help me! The sound sliced into her heart, raw and desperate. Yet, within the chaos, she sensed a horrible truth forming, the shadows whispering their haunting refrain, a trade, a sacrifice for a friend, no, no. Her grip tightened as she wrestled against the urge to succumb. There had to be another way, a chance to save him without losing herself. As she stood firm against the shadows pulling at her sanity, the ground trembled beneath her feet, and the merry-go-round began to pulse, light flickering, dizzying like a heartbeat ready to fail. Trade your fear. A voice called out, silky smooth and enticing. Free him. A small price to pay your fears for his life. She hesitated. Was it worth it? To silence her terror? Her thoughts drifted back to Timmy, trapped and unsure, desperate for his mother. The shadows seemingly crept closer, gnashing for her decision, ready to snatch her answer from her lips. Sarah, a warm voice met her ears, grounding her in that moment. The shadows paused, a flicker of uncertainty reflected in their dark eyes. Just take my hand. Time slowed as she turned, and there huddled in the darkness, a familiar silhouette, Timmy, wide-eyed and trembling. For a moment, relief washed over her, only to be smothered by the shadows clawing at her resolve. Timmy! I'm here! She cried, desperation fueling her every word. But the darkness shifted. Laughter erupted once more, wild and menacing. You want him? Then what will you give? The murmurs grew louder, a storm of voices urging her to make the unthinkable choice. The merry-go-round trembled, light spinning into a chaotic dance of color. Trade or lose him forever. Sarah's breath quickened, the stakes rising higher than she imagined. What was she willing to fight? What would she sacrifice? Timmy! She shouted, but as the shadows encased her, she understood she was running out of time. With a heart full of fear and a mind racing in turmoil, she faced the impending darkness and the choice looming before her. What decision would Sarah make as the playground gripped her tighter? Would she save her son, or would the shadows demand an unforgivable price? The shadows churned, their whispers rising in an unsettling crescendo. Sarah's heart raced as the air grew thick with tension, twisting her stomach into knots. She locked eyes with Timmy, still shrouded in darkness, his small figure trembling like a fragile leaf caught in a storm. Each pulse of the merry-go-round sent waves of light and shadow crashing against her resolve. "Timmy, please," she begged, desperation lacing her voice. "I'll do anything. Just tell me what to do." "Mommy," his voice was small, teetering on the edge of innocence and terror. It pierced through the dark, a beacon begging to be reached. Yet behind him, the shadows writhed like hungry serpents, eager for her struggle. "Help me." In that moment, the shadows shifted, coiling closer, their laughter a haunting echo of lost childhood joy. "What will you trade, Sarah?" they crooned, dripping with malice. "Your fear for his life? What a delightful bargain." It felt like the ground was crumbling beneath her. How could she trade her fear? The weight of it was suffocating, but the thought of losing Timmy was unbearable. "No!" she cried, eyes darting between the sinister faces of the shadows and her son. "I would give anything, everything." "Anything?" The shadows taunted, morphing into twisted figures of those she had loved and lost. Faces from her past emerged, taunting her with hollow smiles. "Would you give your memories? Your laughter? Your light?" Those words twisted in her mind. With each breath, the essence of her memories felt fragile against their weight. What would it mean to lose them? Her childhood joys, the laughter shared with Timmy, all the little moments, these were vital threads of her being. "What will happen to me?" she whispered, her voice trembling as realization crept in. The shadows only laughed, a sound that reverberated through her very soul. "No one will remember you, Sarah," they hissed, their forms flickering like flames. "Just a distant memory, like all those who came before you. A trade awaits his life for your essence." Timmy's voice trembled beneath their laughter, pulling her back. "I don't want you to go." She felt herself teetering on the edge of the abyss, the darkness licking at her heels. The merry-go-round spun faster, its lights a dizzying beacon of dread. "I want you back, Timmy. Just tell me how." Trade, a voice slithered into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts, invasive and compelling. "You can silence your fear. Release it, let it drown beneath the waves of darkness. Just stop." She cried, shaking her head as if that could dispel the looming threat. "I want to let you take him." The shadows twisted, intertwining with her desperation, the laughter morphing into something darker, more primal. "You cannot fight us," they whispered, "you are already ours. Your mind, your heart, all will wither away, leaving only dust." Rage came boiling up, and she stomped, a primal instinct to assert herself against the darkness. "I will fight. I won't give in." A crackle of energy pulsed from her outstretched hands. The merry-go-round flickered dangerously, coloring the playground in a hellish glow. Timmy's eyes widened in fear, and she felt the shadows recoil slightly as if surprised by her strength. "What is it you want, Sarah?" they snarled, their grip faltering for the briefest moment. "I want him back," she roared, her voice igniting a surge of power she never knew she had. The shadows shrieked, their laughter turning into shrill cries. It was a sound that echoed despair, reverberating deep in the ground, causing it to shudder beneath her feet. Timmy began to fade, his figure flickering like a dying ember. "Mommy!" he cried, reaching out as the darkness began to fracture. Help me. Don't let them take me. The ground beneath her trembled a final time, and she realized this was the moment. The choice was hers, but she needed clarity amidst despair. Sarah. A rapid voice surged within her, as clear as day but foreign and strange, like a whisper from the void. What will you sacrifice? What is the price you will pay? She felt the weight of the decision crush her just as the shadows coiled around her tighter, pressing against her resolve. Time stood still, her heart ached with fear and a determination like never before. Would she dare claim her memories to save her son, or would she defy the dark and fight with everything she had? The spinning colors of the merry-go-round blurred, illuminating the night in terrifying flashes. An all-consuming darkness threatened to engulf her, but could she push back? Then, just as the shadows seemed ready to pull her into the void, a twist of fate halted the fray. A familiar shape emerged from the depths, its silhouette resembling something wicked but adorned with light. Choose, Sarah, it echoed through the chaos. As she grasped its shadows, the playground twisted in on itself, her world distorted between light and darkness. What force stood against the shadows? And what would Sarah truly sacrifice to save her son? The familiar shape that loomed against the shadows was cloaked in a dazzling light, flickering with ethereal shimmer. It looked almost like a guardian, though its presence twisted her stomach with fear. The air thickened, the scent of damp earth mixing with something metallic, hinting at the dread that enveloped them. Choose, Sarah. The voice resonated, both inviting and menacing, ringing like a bell through the chaos. The shadows recoiled momentarily, their forms twisting in uncertainty. What was this light? Was it an ally or just another deception lurking in the darkness? Timmy. She couldn't lose sight of him. Her heart raced as she turned to her son, his small face contorted in fear, teetering on the brink of being consumed. Stay with me. Mommy. His voice wavered, trembling like a paper cut in the wind. Her whole being screamed to save him, to embrace that light, but that intricately woven tapestry of fear and love weighed heavy on her chest. I can't hold on much longer. Will you trade your memories? The shadows hissed, their laughter now a rumble of thunder. Or your joy? Your laughter? There's nothing left, only darkness and dust. The merry-go-round creaked louder, each strained groan echoing the torment in her mind, as if the earth had become aware of the bargain set before them. Memories flooded her thoughts the first time Timmy called her mommy, the sound of their laughter echoing through the house, the joy of his first bike ride. She could almost feel them slipping away, like grains of sand through her fingers. No! She shouted defiantly, shaking her head as if to register the severity of the moment. I won't give you anything. Foolish girl, the shadows sneered, their voices weaving a bitter tapestry of despair. Choose now, or face a darkness you can't comprehend. Fingers of darkness clawed at her, drawing dangerously close, threatening to envelop Timmy in their suffocating grasp. For the first time, Sarah felt the chilling hand of hopelessness. Was she really prepared to let this darkness have him? Suddenly, an unexpected thought struck her. A rush of defiance coursed through her veins. I'll sacrifice my fear. She shouted, the words bursting forth as if ignited by her rage. I'll face the terror. I'll fight you. A collective gasp rippled through the shadows, their laughter faltering. The merry-go-round flickered violently, illuminating her surroundings, a stark contrast to the dimness that encroached. A surge of energy spun around her, the warmth of her love wrapping around her and acting as a barrier against the chill. They don't know you, Sarah, the light whispered. They can't grasp the strength within you. Together, Timmy. She yelled, willing her son to summon his courage. Grab my hand. Don't let them take you. Timmy's small voice cut through the chaos, threading with her own. I'm scared, Mommy. The shadows surged, sensing a weakness to exploit, their mass swirling with renewed determination, intensifying the pressure against Sarah's will. "Fear is a weakness, child," they hissed. "Let it drown you. Your son will be ours." "No." Sarah felt the power inside her swell, their whispers becoming a distant hum, the underlying rhythm of chaos drowned by a roar of defiance. "Timmy, remember our song? Sing it with me." The echoes of their favorite lullaby began to fill the air, each note a shield against the encroaching darkness. The shadows shrieked, their laughter turning to fury, as if the very fabric of their being was threatened by hope. With each note, a fragment of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the playground, turning it into a battlefield. The shadows twisted and writhed in agony, their forms warping and shattering like glass. But the moment felt tenuous. Was it enough? Then, just when Sarah thought she could pull Timmy away from the cusp of their grasp, she noticed a horrifying detail: the faces of the shadows began morphing, shifting into reflections of her own lost memories. Shadows captured within their distortion, screaming her name. "Mom!" they cried, voices that once belonged to friends, family. Forever tarnished under the weight of darkness. Overwhelmed, Sarah faltered. "No, this can't be." Timmy's grip slackened, and her heart froze. "Mommy!" His voice wobbled, terror painting his small features. In that moment of weakness, the darkness surged, creeping even closer. Would she have the strength to battle this haunting terror of her own creation? Sarah's breaths came ragged as she wrestled with indecision. Would she let the shadows take him? Would she lose her memories, or would she stand against the voracious shadows swirling around them, threatening to consume everything? The playground around them began to shatter like broken glass, fragments swirling in the air as the light flickered at the edges, battling against hopelessness. Time was slipping, the choice fading with the light. What would happen next? Would she reclaim her power, or would the darkness engulf everything she cherished? As the last remnants of hope began to wane, she had one final choice. "Help me!" she screamed, clinging desperately to her son as the shadows lunged forward, the playground caught in an inescapable grip of despair. What would come of this final standoff? And could she truly save Timmy from the brink? As the shadows closed in, Sarah's heart pounded in rhythm with the whirlwind chaos surrounding her. The face of her son, now distorted by fear, gripped her with a fierce urgency. "Hold on, Timmy!" she shouted, her voice raw with desperation. "We're getting out of here." The merry-go-round spun erratically, the glowing lights flickering like dying stars, each pulse a testament to the evil that thrived within. Shadows morphed into anguished figures, their hollow eyes reflecting the darkness that sought to take everything from her. With every ounce of strength she could muster, Sarah focused on the warmth of her love for Timmy, a blazing beacon in the face of despair. "Timmy, remember our love." She let the words spill from her like a lifeline. "Remember the day we flew kites at the park? Just you and me, laughing?" She closed her eyes momentarily, drowning out the cacophony of haunting voices. That day was filled with pure joy, the sun shining brightly and the world feeling unstoppable. "We are more powerful than anything they throw at us." As the shadows snarled, Sarah reached for the light in her heart, summoning memories of happiness, laughter, and innocence to combat the darkness creeping ever closer. "Our song, Timmy. Sing with me." With trembling lips, she began to hum their lullaby, the soft tune spiraling out into the swirling void. It wrapped around them, casting a bright light that illuminated their surroundings. Timmy's big eyes sparkled at her, and he caught on, singing the notes haltingly but with determination. The shadows recoiled in fury, the sinister laughter faltering. They thrashed angrily as the power of their happiness dove deep into the abyss, breaking apart the grip of despair tightening around them. Suddenly, the light exploded, a blinding sphere of warmth enveloping them both, illuminating the playground in a dazzling glow. And in that moment, everything shifted. The grotesque features of the shadows began to dissolve, their sinister grins replaced by anguished cries that echoed through the night. "No!" they howled, the intensity of their fear in stark contrast to the brightness surrounding Sarah and Timmy. "Push them back," Sarah commanded, her voice filled with newfound authority. "We can't let them win." With every note they sang, she felt the shadows recede, their hold on reality slipping like grains of sand through her fingers. Each verse carried the strength of a mother's love, a fearsome force stripped of malice. "Together," Timmy echoed, and together they channeled everything they had: courage, love, determination. The melody rose higher, blanketing the playground. The merry-go-round trembled as the light engulfed it, shimmering with impossible brilliance. The shadows howled, their forms writhing wildly as if trapped within a storm. "You can't escape," they screeched, but the light surged brighter, amplifying the air around them, pushing back against the darkness. And then silence fell. A deafening silence as the shadows disintegrated, scattering like dust. Each fragment of their wickedness dissolved in the light of Sarah and Timmy's love, carried away like smoke on the wind. Timmy trembled at her side, his small hand clasping hers tightly, and Sarah felt the familiar warmth of hope bloom inside her heart. The playground began to shift, rusty swings creaked back to life, and light flooded over the dilapidated structures, filling the once cursed ground with a golden glow. "Mom?" Timmy's voice quivered, searching her eyes for assurance. She knelt, wiping the tears of relief from her cheeks, cradling his face gently. "I'm right here, sweetheart. We made it." A robust laughter echoed in the distance, the kind of laughter that hinted at joy restored. It was the laughter of children, unburdened by sorrow. They felt the warmth of liberation wash over them as the playground transformed vividly, colors erupted as flowers blossomed, the stagnant air now sweet with the scent of fresh beginnings. They stood up together, hand in hand as the world around them started to heal. The once cursed playground now stood as a testament to resilience and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her son. "Let us go home," Sarah said, the weight of fear lifting. Together they stepped away from the playground, a curse no more, leaving the past behind. They had faced darkness and emerged victorious, a story of love that would rise far beyond the shadows. As the night sky draped over the horizon, Sarah breathed deeply, feeling the warmth of her son beside her. They turned for one last look at the playground, now vibrant and alive, each swing dancing freely, whispering tales of friendship and family. It was then that she realized the playground would always be part of their lives, but it would never again hold the power to scare them. Together, they had conquered a nightmare. And as they walked away, firmly linked together, Sarah knew that fear couldn't touch them anymore. Now, more than ever, you need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss exclusive stories like this. You'll regret it if you don't. Smash the like button now to help with the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. I want to hear what you all think. And for the love of all things creepy, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this. You know true fans are the ones who keep this community alive.